Welcome to Shelf Warmers. I'm Sam.
And I'm Andrew.
This is a podcast where we watch and discuss movies from roughly 2012 to 2020, aka the pump and dump period of Hollywood. Not exactly a golden age, but definitely time of high fertility for Tinseltown.
So fertile, in fact, that we didn't see many of the movies produced. So they're good, bad, or just meh, we're going to cover it all. If you heard about it and didn't watch it, well, now we're going to.
And today we're covering 2014's A Most Violent Year. It stars Oscar Isaac as a fuel supplier who tries to adhere to his own moral compass amid the rampant violence, corruption, and decay that threaten his family and business. The film also stars
Jessica Chastain and Albert Brooks.
David Oyelowo.
Really good in this.
What is it? David Oyelowo?
Oyelowo? Something like that.
Great guy.
Great guy. So let's address two things right at the start. One, change the pod name. The first two episodes, it was Heard It's Good, Didn't Watch.
Now it's Shelf Warmers.
Shelf Warmers.
Watch us have like a horrible 10-year legal battle. Like Social Network. If you were the inventors of Shelf Warmers, you would have invented Shelf Warmers.
Which I think is more of a succinct way to summarize and say our idea.
Yeah, I like it. It conjures up images of this massive Criterion closet, like
a warm shelf, because it does look warm
Yeah.
inside that Criterion closet.
almost like an Alexandria, just like huge archive of mainly DVDs from this 2012, 2020 era.
Maybe good, maybe bad. But let's also say that we watched a good one. It's a good movie. We did it.
I might even say great.
Great. We gave it 3.5, so
That's great. That's really good.
that's really good. That's not great.
Well, I was telling Bash before we recorded, our wonderful sound engineer, that I was thinking of bumping it up to a 4.
Wow. I agree with the original assessment. It was
Well-
a 3.5 for me. But, you know, it's still good. And we'll get to that later. With our new rating system, so you got to stay tuned for that. I mean,
Yeah, you're gonna wanna
exclusive
stay
look
put.
at our new rating system for Shelf Warmers.
We're not going to tell you what it is now.
No, you have to wait and watch, just like back in the day. It's event podcasting.
That's right.
The exclusive look at our new rating system.
I think it's also notable that this film is directed by J.C. Chandor,
Yes, the director of Craven the Hunter.
Craven the Hunter, which is actually, it's pretty funny. And it kind of emphasizes, again, our whole idea with this show of like 11 years ago, this guy was making this movie,
Yeah.
this gritty, low budget A24 drama.
And folks, let me tell you this. When I saw A24, I knew it was going to be good. I knew that we were in for a treat. Because A24 makes the best movies. The best movies ever.
It's a given.
It's a given. You see A24, you know it's going to be weird. It's going to be out there. But it's
You're-
going to be good. And you're excited.
You're going to want to buy a $45 Blu-ray that they put out,
And you're going to want to buy like a Lighthouse hoodie. And like a
Right.
Nosferatu hoodie.
or some like
And
Yeah.
Uncut Gems hoodie.
After Sun stationery.
Oh, After Sun gun.
Yeah, so when you watch After Sun, you kill yourself right after.
But it's branded. It's
Right,
branded.
right.
Yeah, so let's kind of get into the movie itself and when it came out. It came out December 31st, 2014,
What
just
is
so
that?
it could play in the award season.
Right.
You know, it was an Oscar contender, I guess, but I don't think it picked up anything.
Yeah, like a lot of our movies on this pod, they're kind of Oscar baity fare.
Sure. Yeah, very Oscar baity. So this is kind of interesting. I know exactly what I saw instead of this from last week.
Really?
Yeah. This came out 1 week after the Sony hack.
Oh.
And the interview came out, and I rented it as soon as it came out, and I love the interview. I think that's kind of an amazing movie that, or let me say this, I
Time
think it's a
capsule
good
movie.
a good movie that was made amazing just by circumstance. You know, it kind of
it's
is.
historic.
It's incredible as this piece of political rebellion, and the fact that it still came out is still so impressive. And Sony got hacked, and some people lost their jobs over this movie that is a bunch of dick jokes and Kim Jong-un getting hit by a rocket launcher. And I love it.
That's
I
where, we,
really,
that's where
really-
we were as a country. I've never seen it.
You've never seen the interview.
No.
That's next episode. Also coming out, for award season, we got Selma,
Oh.
and we got American Sniper, and Into the Woods, and Unbroken. You know, so there was a kind of like a huge string of those award movies that I think of not really fondly because I don't think I saw American Sniper. I saw Selma. I saw Into the Woods. I saw Into the Woods also that week.
I remember seeing Into the Woods because that was like a moment, and I definitely saw Selma because we went as a class
Oh, really?
to go see Selma.
It was a field trip.
It's funny you mention this. I haven't thought about this in years. We saw Selma, and this has genuinely been like something I've been trying to track down. It was like a class trip. We went to go see Selma, and we saw it like upstate New Jersey at this AMC in a mall, and it felt like we were walking into a stadium. Like the seats were that steep and high
Wow.
up. Like this whole class of, what were we? Seventh graders?
Yeah.
Yeah, seventh grade.
Was it like an IMAX screen?
I think I was just a little bit smaller
Sure.
than I am now, so it felt bigger, but it was like, it literally, I was getting like vertigo walking up the steps. And I remember thinking, like weeks later, this theater is so awesome, I have to get back here. And I swear to God, like I've sat down at the computer and looked up this theater and have not found it. It's like lost to time.
I've lost the time, yeah. It probably shut down, I guess.
It's possible.
And now it's used as a coliseum. So I saw that for my brother's 15th birthday. He brought all of his friends to see Selma. I don't know why he chose that movie.
Yeah.
It's a good movie, but it's not. He was never interested in the civil rights movement. He still is not to this day. Not interested in Martin Luther King. He didn't really seem that excited for this movie either. But he like really wanted to go just suddenly to see it for his birthday. And the thing I remember was that I tried to sit next to him, and his friend got weird about that. He wanted to sit next to him on his birthday. So his friend was like, "No, you can't sit there." And I was like, "What?" He said, "You can't sit there." I was like, "I don't care." And it was like tense for the whole screen of the movie because I was going to sit there.
I feel like that lingers to this day. Like, obviously in a movie theater, you're not going to talk to someone, but you kind of want to sit next to who you want to sit next to.
Exactly. And like to be like, "No, you can't." When I'm his brother, I thought it was a bold choice on his part. And I won, but I remember being like,
This kid
I remember being kind of pissed off during Selma. One, because of the seating thing, and two, the racism.
True. Absolutely true. Also notable about Selma, it's shot by Bradford Young.
Who shot this movie?
Who shot this? Now, most of the movies we pick for the pod, we have not seen.
Yes.
But in all transparency, I did watch this movie in 2015.
You did.
I did. But it was long enough ago where I did not remember a single thing about it.
I think that's okay. Most of the movies we watch during this period, unless it's like, a favorite and we've seen multiple times, have not stayed with us. So if you saw it when it came out and it's like 11 years ago at this point, I understand.
And
okay.
Like, I remember the moments surrounding my actual viewing of the film. We're actually recording this in my grandma's garage. And I actually watched the movie right in that room over there, in that living room.
Yeah.
And I used to come here on the weekends, and what I would do is there used to be a Fios like on demand option, and basically what it did was it had all the movies that were on demand listed A to Z, and I was able to just go through every single one that was included on the movie channels. So it was like 200 movies, and my favorite thing I used to do in 7th grade on the weekends, I would sit down and literally just like click the down arrow and go through all these movies, title by title, and just like, what am I going to watch? What am I going to watch? This was 2015, so I think I was maybe aware, because it must have been like May or like, towards the spring of 2015. Yeah. So I'm almost entirely sure I was aware of Force Awakens coming out.
Oh, yeah.
I think I saw Oscar Isaac, and I was like, oh my God, like this guy is going to be in Star Wars. What is this movie? A most violent year. What is this, like a gangster, like Goodfellas? Like this movie has to rip. And I remember being incredibly let down and like thinking it was boring.
Yeah, it is slow, but in a way that now I love.
Right.
And I also had that thought too of the way Oscar Isaac's not in anything anymore.
That's what I was thinking too. I was looking at his IMDb.
Yeah, really him and Chastain both have slowed down a lot over the last few years. And I don't know if that's because they aren't getting offers or the movies that they are interested in making aren't getting made. But I thought it was very interesting to see some of these people.
It seems like they did Scenes from a Marriage together.
Yeah.
And then they quit acting.
Yeah, which as we know is very famous for their sexual tension.
What was it again?
I had no idea that they had a history together. So seeing them in this movie, I was like, wow. They famously had affair rumors in the same vein as Bradley Cooper did with Lady Gaga, because on the red carpet, I I believe the Cannes Film Festival, they had a moment where he smelled her arm as she like extended it, and I think he like started to kiss her arm up and down, and like his wife was there, and his wife like didn't care. His wife's like whatever, like he's just being like a flirt, and like they're old friends. They're trying to sell it,
But the internet
was like they're fucking. we have no doubt in our mind that these two are having sex.
And there's like intense scenes in that scenes from
There's
marriage.
intense sex scenes in that, so they must have been feeling something. I actually the other night I did watch the Oscar a song from 2019 of The Star Is Born where they sang
tension.
together.
It's palpable.
That's real tension. That's real tension.
That was that the last great Oscar moment?
Well,
I'm just Ken, maybe.
I'm just counter maybe keep my wife's name out your motherfucking mouth.
Oh, we'll save our Will Smith slap story for another episode.
Yeah, maybe for a Will Smith movie.
Yeah,
Or an Oliver Stone movie, and that's a tease.
that's a tease.
Yeah. I was watching this movie, and my first thought was, wow, it feels like David Harbour should be in this movie.
He's definitely in this, class of actor
Totally.
in this kind of movie.
Yeah, he's in the same vein as Alexandra Nova, the guy that
Alessandro
plays
Nivola. Yeah,
Peter, who's also
He's
in Craven the
really
Hunter
good.
now.
and he
really
was
good
just
in
he
this.
was just in The Brutalist, and he was in The Sopranos prequel movie.
Oh yeah,
in a leading role.
Many Saints of Newark.
Yeah,
What a stupid name.
and that movie's a piece of shit.
Really?
And I love The Sopranos. I think it's one of the greatest pieces of art that we have in this century.
Well,
But that movie fucking sucks.
So how does this movie hold up for you in the grand catalog of gangster movies? Because I see you as kind of an aficionado for those. Because I saw some similarities, but I also saw like a lot of restraint in this movie.
Well, it's kind of like a key part of the movie. I think Oscar Isaac's character, Abel Morales, which is a cool name.
Abel. I kept
Abel.
saying Abel. And right at the beginning, when Albert Brooks says, Abel, I was like, oh, is he saying it wrong? I'm like, oh no, that's just his name.
Yeah, Abel. What separates Abel from, say, Michael Corleone or, these other gangsters is he wants to be morally right. He wants to be on this path of, being clean and making a business in this country the right way. That's what he says in the movie. Everything I've done is the right way. And I think that's a really intriguing thing when you have a character placed in 1981 New York City. So like the odds are stacked against him to be this, moral compass through this, like we said, corrupt city. It just makes for really good drama where you have this guy constantly fighting to be good and do the right thing, but everything is against him. His whole world is crumbling in this movie, and it's like you said, it's a slow burn, but it's really intriguing.
Yeah, he's interesting to me. Just the opening credits of also, I would say really solid opening credits. I'm always a sucker for a good song and solid opening credits, but the whole time he's on a jog.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh wow, he's like a mob boss, because that was kind of my assumption. I'm like, oh, I've never seen a criminal like him. He feels vulnerable. He's very exposed on this run. He's just wearing the same stuff as Rocky.
mm-hmm.
But it's a very open way to start his character. I'm like, oh, he doesn't care that he's out, and he's not like out with guards. He's just doing what he does.
Yeah, they play the Marvin Gaye song, and he's running around the city. It's reminiscent of like those old movies, like the 70s, 80s, kind of like the beginning of Dog Day, where they play the Elton John song, and the city's waking up. But this is a great like New York in the winter movie.
It looks incredible. Yeah, I mean, we mentioned that Bradford Young shot it, but he really owns the digital look in this.
It's really good. I mean, he goes on to shoot Arrival, which I think is probably his best looking movie.
Sure.
But he also did Pariah, the Dee Reese movie from 2011, which is a really good like independent movie that I watched over COVID, and I was like, this is good. And then I was like, who shot this? And it was Bradford Young. He just did what was it, Solo?
He did shoot Solo, which actually looks really good too.
I will begrudgingly say yes, it does.
Solo does look great. Yeah, it's also nice that we start this story not trying to do an origin story. It does just throw you into it. He's established, but he's still rising, which is nice. And it was such a sigh of relief when I heard Albert Brooks has like one of the first lines of this movie, because I thought it'd be more like Drive, where he's antagonist.
Right.
But he's the third lead. He's in this a lot. Like he has solo scenes, and I love Albert Brooks. He looks like Colin Firth in this
I
because he
was-
has the straight hair, and it's
yeah,
like
his hair
really
looks
threw me
really
off.
funky. He has like an iconic, curly hair mop top, and his hair's straight in this.
Yeah. Everyone in this movie
Waspy.
looks really good,
Oh yeah.
but also they have a unique look. The way Oscar Isaac's not like he's sleek and he's handsome, but he's not doing anything crazy. And same for Chastain too. They're very much are owning the '80s aesthetic in a way that makes them like obviously they're both very hot people, but they look very normal, and that's kind of the idea they're chasing. They're not so sleeked out and rich. They have a normality to them.
And they do have those incredible winter coats.
Incredible.
Some of the best winter coats.
Yeah, I also just love that he's not dealing with criminals in the opening scene. Like, it's not trying to set a tone of that. He's just dealing with these old Jewish men who are like hidden in shadow in the opening shot.
It's great.
It looks incredible, but he's not bargaining with the mob. He's just talking to these old Jewish men who just own this land. That's all he wants, and that's his goal with the movie. He just wants this one piece of land, and it's so great to ground him in that.
And it kind of starts off right from the beginning where he's trying his best to get further in this business. And what I like about it is it's not like he's a mobster. He's not a gangster. He's just like this business owner, and he's trying to make it, and it's just a corrupt industry.
Yeah.
And it's like this fuel industry of New York in the 80s. I have no idea what this was like.
I didn't either.
But you totally buy into it that, yeah, it would have some criminal elements. His wife, whose father has some
Yes,
mob
her father's in
connections.
jail.
That's not really...
And I thought they were going to show the father, and I'm glad they don't. He's kind of like a presence looming over the movie. Her father and her brother and her family, like as they're referenced probably 5 or 6 times. And you keep waiting for them to show up and handle things. They never do, but it's great restraint on their part because you feel their presence on the movie.
Yeah.
Because she's almost more of a gangster than he is.
Yeah,
He's like afraid of her a little bit. Like she's got an edge to her that really makes her such an interesting character.
Yeah, she's like, you better handle this because you're not going to like it. Like, when I handle it, like, I'm going to do some crazy stuff. And you do get the sense that she is her father's daughter.
Yeah,
In this world.
and I love how they showcase that, through shadow. Because that one shot where the feds come to the door and try to buy time so they can hide some stuff, and the kids have friends over.
Yeah, it's the daughter's
10th
birthday party.
Yeah, and he is by the door, and he still has light coming in on his face, and she's completely hidden in shadow. She's the one they underestimate, and they think, okay, she's a mob boss's a kid, but she's way smarter than he is.
Yeah.
And she's also totally amoral in some ways, in a way that he just cannot do.
Yeah, so, I mean, he has a lot to prove in this world.
Yeah, and I love the scene where, he hits the deer.
Oh my God. Insane.
Yeah.
Made me jump out of my seat. They're driving down this road, they're having this dialogue scene, and then bam! Fucking windshield cracks, car spins out. Oh my God! Are you okay? Are you okay? Like, insane.
And I was kind of upset at first. I was like, okay, you're going to do the thing where he has to go over and kill the deer and put the deer out of its misery, and he gets the tire iron because he doesn't have a gun. He's a businessman.
Yeah, he can't work up the courage to beat this deer to death, which I guess I can understand.
Yeah.
And then another jump scare moment, like bang, bang, bang. These shots go ring out. A bell jumps, and then he turns around, and Jessica Chastain has this like gun and shot the deer. It's like, and I think she calls him a pussy or something.
Yeah, she does call him a pussy.
It's like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
she takes care of it.
She's hard. She's really hard. What I like about that scene, and like we said, it's a slow burn movie, but there are these intense bursts of violence and noise, and the movie has like 2 or 3, I think, incredible moments of tension. And I think those moments are heightened by those more softer, quieter dialogue scenes.
Absolutely. He loves the master shot, which is what I was thinking. He really likes to hold the master for like a while and just give characters space, because there's always a lot of space in between people, and you really hold on that space. It feels slow. It feels raw like that.
And I guess we should cover like the basic conflict of the movie, which kind of starts out where he has all these fuel drivers, like these people driving the trucks with all the fuel going around the city. And one of the guys gets robbed at gunpoint.
Yes, who kind of is not the antagonist of the movie, but he's kind of like the second protagonist in a weird way.
He's like this symbolic character that trots through the whole movie, kind of intermittently.
He's you would assume someone who is recently has come to New York. He doesn't speak a lot of English. Or he's new to English.
Yes.
He's working this dead end job, and he gets robbed, and it messes him up. Like his jaw gets broken. Like he's messed up by this, and has trauma throughout the whole rest of the movie. Yeah,
he gets pistol whipped and thrown out of the truck, so his face is all fucked up. His leg is busted. Oscar Isaac is furious. And we get the sense that this is not the first robbery that's happened.
No. I think they say over the last year, they've taken 110,000 gallons of fuel from him.
So he's about to close on this huge deal for this plot of land.
Which helped him to expand his empire.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge move for him. And then all these forces that are not up to him are making it incredibly difficult for him to keep that moral compass that he has.
And something that I really like, too, was when they start to address this and try to figure out how does this work for the drivers and the Teamsters. It's a very like union movie in a way that a lot of mob movies don't spend time on. And there's kind of this line where Abel's saying to the head of the Teamsters, you know, it's not like how it was like, you know, back even 5-10 years ago in the early 70s and we were driving. And you can really feel the changing of the times and the changing of New York City in this movie.
I love that kind of thing. And the movie's called A Most Violent Year because 1981 was the most, just statistically, there were the most crime in New York City's history, which is, we have actually got some crime here in North Brunswick, New Jersey, it sounds like. But, you know, we said Abel has this strict moral compass, and part of that is his business sense. So one of the first great scenes in the movie is when Abel is teaching some of his new salesmen how to sell.
Because he is straight-laced, like we said. Like, he really does not see himself as a gangster.
And I don't think he is. I think there's moments towards the end of the film where he kind of has to step up and kind of find some loopholes to take power, which is really what it's about.
Yeah, he has to make this deal work because he falls through on his loan because he's being investigated by
the DA's office.
Yeah, but DA's office, and also he's a charge because as a character of Julian halfway through the movie, he goes back to driving. And he feels like he's confident, so he brings a pistol because
he's terrified.
Yeah, he's not confident at all.
He's like, because it's like his first day back, and Abel's like, "Welcome back. Like you're gonna go, and you'll make us proud. Like you being."
He's
back,
always selling. He's really great to the people who work for him, but he has a blind confidence in them in a weird way, and he thinks Julian's ready, and then Julian knows he's not ready. He's still terrified of getting hurt again.
He's choked up in the locker room, getting ready to go out again, and he's like, "I feel vulnerable." And Abel's like, "That's good.
You are, yeah.
Like we all are."
Yeah.
So
and he gets robbed again though, so
which is
absolutely
crazy.
Right. And they have a great chase scene.
Oh my god, that kicks off some of the greatest stuff because it's like a recurring shot where it's like it's a point of view shot of the side view mirror.
Yeah.
And you see these guys walking up to the truck during traffic. They're holding something which looks like a gun, and you're like, "Fuck!" Like they come, and part of I think the movie kind of conditions you to be a little bit frightened because you saw this guy get pistol whipped, 40 minutes ago, and now there's more robbers coming towards the truck, and we don't know it yet, but he pulls out the gun, and you're like, "Oh fuck!"
Because it's about to go down. And it's kind of this great thing is that you're in his POV, so you feel just as terrified, but then these guys aren't really scary. Like it's these two kind of dorks, like, "Fuck you, buddy! Like you pulled a gun on us, what the fuck?" Like they're almost like more upset that he pulled a gun on them.
Yeah.
Than like the fact that they're obviously trying to rob him and steal the fuel. But they're like so mad at him. They're like, "You dumbass, you're firing off shots," and they're almost like trying to scold him for it, which is kind of like which is just a great way like to break that tension too.
And because they don't seem like pros, and obviously Julian's not like an assassin, you really do get the sense. Like I had no idea where this movie was going, so I could see Julian getting shot. I could see him shooting the robbers. Like I had no idea where it was going to go. Eventually, they hear sirens, they hear the cops coming, and the two robbers just bolt and they run, which I thought was so kind of like almost funny. They're like, "Fuck it, I'm running."
Yeah.
And they just run like sprint.
Like a bitch or something. Like, "Come on, bitch," or something.
Yeah, they just run full speed, and then Julian like follows them. Meanwhile, one of the salesmen is on a house call.
Yeah.
So earlier in the movie, Abel like trains them all like how to sell, and it's really, I think, Oscar Isaac's one of his best moments is he's telling them how to like close on these deals, and he's like, "You have to hold eye contact longer than you think."
Yeah.
And it's like one of the best moments because Oscar
He's like,
Isaac.
you always ask for tea.
Yeah,
Tea's more expensive, and we're the best.
we're the best, and you want to be the best. And it's just this shot. It's almost funny of like Oscar Isaac just like staring for a little bit too long, and even one of the characters starts laughing, and Oscar Isaac's like, "This is no joke," and you're like, "Oh, sorry, Abel,
My bad.
It's not a joke." But then one of the guys there that Abel was training earlier is on this house call, and he gets asked to go outside and check something, right?
He's in Union territory.
Yeah.
He's in Teamster country.
So as Julian is dealing with these robbers on the freeway with the guns, this poor kid is trying to close this deal, and then he gets punched in the face, and it's like intercut of like Julian dealing with these guys. This salesman getting beat up, he's thrown in the back of a truck and taken out to this like dump and just dropped off.
Yeah.
So I'm at that moment I'm feeling, oh my god, Abel is screwed. Abel is screwed.
You also feel the pressure very early on in the movie because after the robbery, that's when the pressure starts to build, and Abel, his home gets broken into very early on, and it's very tense and dogs barking. It's that kind of tradition, but he goes out and he sees the guy, and the guy just, I guess the same guy as from earlier, but he just sprints.
Yeah.
And Abel's like awkward. He's chasing with the bat, and he's like in his bare feet. He's falling in the snow.
He like cuts his foot open,
Yeah.
John McClane style.
Yeah, and then like the next morning, like his kids are in the front yard, and they just find the handgun.
Oh my god.
And you're like, oh, this was a threat on his life. This wasn't a burglary.
He's like, yeah, they just wanted the TV. They just wanted the TV. Like he's trying to de-escalate stuff with his wife, because his wife, like we said,
Chastain, who's the
daughter of the mobster, like
yeah,
you could tell she could, call her dad's buddies or whatever.
and they would handle it quick.
But there's this again, like the master shot of the daughter holding the handgun,
And she points it towards
she
her
points
head.
at her little head, and you're like, and you literally jump forward the same time Jessica Chastain doesn't, and she's like, I think the girl's name is like Katie. Like it's like, oh my god, is this girl about to shoot her fucking head off? Like that's what I mean. Like the movie is so quiet, so when those intense moments happen,
And the whole time the mom's like, oh my god, how long has she had this for? And Lister's like, I don't know. Like, she's so indifferent to the fact that the little girl had the gun. It's so great from Julian's POV too. I did not think he would be as big of a presence in this movie as he was. And I really love just holding with him, who very clearly is an immigrant, wants the same thing as Oscar Isaac. They don't ever really address race in this movie, but it's kind of an undercurrent,
Well, there's a moment where they're in the locker room together, and Julian starts speaking Spanish, and Abel's like, English.
Yeah.
So he's like,
No, none of that. Like he's
like, we got to play by their rules, kind of.
he
thing.
feels very white, even though Oscar Isaac obviously is not white. But he's trying to play to that to fit in. He wants respect. He's surrounded by white people,
right. So he won't break the law or kill anybody, but he will assimilate and do what he has to do to fit the part of this American businessman.
Yeah,
of 1981.
And he won't beg, which is something I really noticed is like he's always trying to preserve his pride,
which it's very admirable for a protagonist.
Yeah, he won't ever like get to the levels that some protagonists, like in a Scorsese movie, would go to. He knows his worth. He won't go below that.
Well, right after everything falls apart with Julian, because now Julian is involved in this freeway shooting. I don't think anyone dies, but it's like this big deal. He runs away from the truck. His salesman is thrown in the dirt. Right after that, one of his key investors for his new plot of land like drops out. That guy Arthur, he's like I can't, like you have indictments against you. I just heard about this shooting on the freeway. Like I'm walking. Basically, part of the stakes of the whole movie is he has to pay those Jewish guys from the beginning.
Yeah.
In 30 days.
30 days.
So there's a ticking clock element.
He's got press from all different sides.
And early in the film, he like secures the money from I think it's like I forget what the guy's name is. I think it's Arthur.
Yeah, Arthur, like who's like a banker, like who has supported him from the start.
Right, the bank. And then the bank walks away. So like all these things, again, like all this external stuff is put on Abel, and that ultimately leads to him kind of stooping down a level to scrounge and get that money.
Yeah.
And it's honestly hard to watch because you do feel for him. Like you feel how, like you said, that point of pride, like you feel he really needs to prove himself without breaking the law.
Yeah, and it's also like an ignorance too. I don't think he understands the world as well as his wife does. And that's kind of the pushing point too the whole time. Like, she'd call him a pussy, but like, she's not wrong. He thinks everything will work out like it's a movie. He's not located in reality sometimes. He can't face that, you know?
It's brutal. And then he ends up going to Joseph, who's like the head honcho of the Jewish guys, who's actually played by Jerry Adler, who's in The Sopranos.
Oh, yeah?
So there's a lot of like, you know,
Mob
mob
connection.
overlap type stuff. And he says, I need more time.
Yeah.
And it's like this heartbreaking thing because you know how much this all means to him.
But he is kind of locked into these two worlds too, you know, because he's formal and friendly, you know, with like the DA, who's a great performance by David Oyelowo,
Right.
who is like, they have a respect for each other in such a way that they shouldn't.
He goes to him in the beginning, and then the DA's like, I'm just going to level with you. Like, we're going to bring some charges against you tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's almost odd. Like, everyone's like, what? Like, what? He's telling him that?
Yeah.
Albert Brooks is like freaking out.
Albert Brooks, again, great as his lawyer.
Yeah. Who, like, doesn't seem to respect him either. Like, he knew that his wife was, over the years, was taking a lot of money from him in his business, but just let her do it anyway. Because, like...
She's like, I was skimming off the top.
Yeah, it's interesting the way that he's always surrounded by these crooks, but will never... Like, he's almost in this sense of delusion where he knows bad things are happening, but he turns a blind eye. Because, like, he understands that, you know, something bad is happening in his company, but he won't even think about it. He won't address it.
Well, they almost refer to it as, like, industry practice.
Yes.
Which is, like, fibbing on certain returns and stuff with the drivers. Like, there's some common practices, because even though it's not really a mobster movie, there are, like, these other oil businesses. And soon after this...
It's like a syndicate.
Yeah, there's, like, a meeting of the oil families. And it's a pretty great... Again, I think there's a lot of great scenes, but Abel shows up to this meeting with all the oil heads, and he's like, whichever one of you is doing this, he says one word.
Stop.
Yeah, he just says stop.
Yeah.
And it's so genuine, and you look around at these shitheads who are just lying. They're lying. They're like, we don't know who's doing this, Abel. We really don't. And it's obviously one of them, because nobody would have the muscle to pull off these thefts aside from these oil barons, basically. So he leaves that meeting with the oil barons, and you feel like you almost get the sense that Abel is going to snap at some point. Like, he has this such a strong personal moral code, but again, this whole world is crumbling around him. And I think when he asked for more time to pay off the money, the guy's like, I'll give you 3 days. And that's all he gets.
Yeah.
And he's like, thank you, like, thank you. Like, and he pulls it together. And it's only then does he go and not beg, but he bargains and he makes deals.
Yeah.
And he gets the money from his brother, and he goes to one of the oil families, and he's like, I need some money from this. So he, like, you know, gets it all together, and that's when it comes out that his wife has been taking money.
Yeah. It's also interesting that his brother is never in the movie until he needs him.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an interesting thing where he also co-owns the apartment building with him. And it's very interesting, like, where has he been this whole time? So is he just more a pawn to him? Because you can tell he, like, loves him, I guess, but he's never brought up, he's not invited to the birthday party. He's almost like a separate person in his life. He's almost more of a stranger. You know, it's kind of this weird thing. He's maybe in high school or he's in college, he's playing football. You're like, oh, wow, like, who are they to each other? You know?
Right. And then it comes, like, towards the end of the film. So what I like about this movie is there's all these characters, and you get the sense of, like, a much larger
world
story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And part of that is, you know, throughout the film on the radio, one of my favorite details is there's constant chatter about these other horrible things happening in the city, like stabbing on the subway, shooting on the street, like that climate of a most violent year.
Yeah, it's also, it's not a funny movie, like in a way that I feel some of the mob movies of the last 40 years have a humor to them, because it is absurd and it is crazy that that for 60 years, 100 years, that they were able to like just do this. There really is no sense of humor in this movie. It's not a funny movie. There aren't like like a lot of one-liners.
Right.
It's very self-serious.
Like we said early on, Abel literally says, "This is no joke." I assure you, this is no joke.
How do you feel this movie kind of ranks up against not just The Godfather, but against the works of Martin Scorsese? Because I felt similarities there in terms of protagonists, and I'm curious what your perspective is on that.
I think it's definitely kind of riffing on Scorsese stuff, but I actually think it's more in line with the films of Sidney Lumet.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It's more
Dog Day earlier.
Right. Or like Serpico, or the film I'm going to mention later as part of our slate. But like Dog Day, like these movies where the characters are usually a little bit more... Like Scorsese likes the kind of bad guys and making the bad guys look sympathetic and then kind of deconstructing them by the end of the film. But Lumet's characters are often more kind of like Abel, where they're morally good.
Yeah, they're morally good, and
really,
they do have...
Yeah, they're really
have
trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Sonny in Dog
Day
Day
Afternoon.
And I think Oscar Isaac is very much reminiscent of like a young Pacino.
Absolutely, yeah. Como you're saying, he's just trying to hold it together. And he will never say he's bad. He cannot admit that to himself, which I just really, really love. He can literally see someone shoot themselves in the head, and he won't have a reaction. And like you're like, he's a troubled guy. He's a really, really troubled guy who's just is trying to cling on to his innocence so hard.
But I think as an audience member, I think you admire that.
Absolutely.
Abel, because you would only hope that you could be as strong as Abel, given these circumstances. It kind of reaches a climax at the point in the film that I think is my favorite scene, where his trucks have been getting robbed. He has like the scanner in his car that all the trucks are connected to, and he's driving down the street and he gets word that another robbery is taking place. And he's like, where is it, Kathy, where is it? Like, he's talking to the dispatcher, and the driver's like, oh, we're over here on this street, whatever, New York. And Oscar Isaac's like, I'm right there, I'm coming. And you're like, what the fuck is about to happen? Yeah. So the truck driver is like on the street, like pointing, and Oscar Isaac like sees his truck, it's his company, his fuel is barreling away down the street, and he just turns and he starts gunning his car, following this truck.
Yeah. He gets called by someone. Someone's like, oh, well, Cape Crusader or something like that. Because he feels like a vigilante in this scene. He goes hard.
It's insane. So he's following the truck through New York City. Eventually, the truck like goes down this side road, and they end up on the tracks of a train. And Oscar Isaac's just like following him. And again, like this idea of like, okay, now the movie has hit like another gear. Like, I was genuinely moving my face closer to the screen in this part, especially when they go into the tunnel, and you see the red lights of the truck, and Oscar Isaac's like trying to see it, and the red lights just get further and further, and they fade away, and you're like, God damn it, these guys are gonna get away with it again.
Yeah, and honestly, like, respect to Oscar Isaac and respect to Abel, because I would have given up.
Absolutely.
I would have ran away.
But then something kind of crazy happens where
I would have been like, ring the Abel.
Ring the Abel.
Somebody took my damn truck.
TKO. Get this guy out of here. He comes out of the tunnel and the fucking truck is turned over.
Flipped.
And it's like, oh, thank God. Thank God. So then Abel gets out of his car. The one driver is dead.
Head smashed in.
It's brutal. So you're like, okay, I guess the fuel's fine. And the one guy, I think it's the same guy from earlier, from the Julian shooting.
Correct.
He starts running. And Oscar Isaac is like, God damn it. So now it's a foot chase.
Yeah.
And it keeps going.
And it's handheld.
Oh, it's awesome.
It looks great.
And also, because that first scene, Abel is running, you buy that he can keep up with this guy, because they're running for a really long time.
Yeah.
And they run down the street. They end up on the subway. And there's that great, again, the tension of him being on the subway car, seeing the guy, but not looking at him.
Yeah, he keeps hiding his head, his face.
And it's like, reminiscent, I guess, of Godfather and stuff.
Now on 5th Street.
Right. approaching the station. And then he fucking tackles him.
He tackles him right as the door's about to close.
Yeah.
And just pistol whips him over and over again. He's exploding this moment. This is him getting out all the bent up anger. Because he doesn't really want to kill the guy. Like, he wants the information. But he's just whacking him over and over again.
And it is kind of satisfying when he tackles him. And then it gets a little scary when he starts punching him. When you're like, oh my God, is he going to kill this guy? And then the guy's face is busted and he presses the gun like into his eye. And you're like, Jesus Christ.
Please.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Dune also, in the sense that Oscar Isaac, plays the head of a family who's very concerned about a fuel. And, I was like, oh, wow, this kind of make me think of Dune, which is not really anything. I just thought that was kind of funny. I was thinking of Dune in the way that.
What if you kind of did Dune, but it was like a mobster gangster thing?
That's probably the most interesting way to do it.
Two families.
I like Dune, but like if that was kind of like a, because the thing about Dune's so big that if there was like a smaller side to it, just like Dune hits his empire, I'd be very interested in that.
That would be kind of cool, actually. Then you have the young kid. I guess that's basically just Godfather.
Shit, we're reinventing the wheel here.
They made Godfather Dune.
I do like though, and this probably is true once again, that like there is a syndicate like for the fuel industry. And I do think that'd be funny if just like, for every field you were in, there was a syndicate.
Yeah.
Like, the paper supply syndicate, there's plumber syndicate. It probably isn't unions too, but just like.
There's a sit down that has to take place every like 3 years.
Yeah. Like, like I work in a library and I would love if like, in order to get things done, I had to be like, all right, everyone, we're going to meet tonight.
Are we still doing Dewey Decimal?
Dewey Decimal. Does it stay or does it go? Children's reading. Does it stay or does it go?
It's gotta stay. It's gotta go.
The biography section. Are we over it?
Do we really need to know all about these people?
The 7th Trump biography is at the shelves. Do we want it? Or do we want to keep the Martin Short biography?
Martin Short all the way.
The Grinch. Is he gone this year?
Does your library have like a biography section?
Oh, totally, yeah.
I don't think I've ever been to your library.
You would love it. You know why?
Why?
They're books.
We like movies. We don't read books.
Wait, what? Huh? I thought I read this movie.
I did have captions on. I try to throw on the captions when we do a.
It was hard to hear. I also had captions on. So maybe that's a mixed issue, or maybe we're getting too old.
What?
Huh?
Huh?
Yeah.
But Abel's got this guy at gunpoint. It seems like he's about to blow his fucking head off. And then he kind of just, again, gets his composure back, and he's like, let him go.
Yeah.
He lets him go.
And the guy's like, he's not in a hurry. He's like standing there panting, like holding his eyes.
He's like, and then he kind of will, because he's been given his life.
He drops a bomb on him.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know who these guys are. I just delivered it to Key, whatever, the West Point.
No, he didn't say that. He's like, just so you know, man, I don't work for anyone.
Right, I don't work for anybody.
He's just doing it because he saw an opportunity.
And he's like, I just deliver it to whatever port.
Yeah.
And Oscar Isaac knows there's only one guy who has that port.
Yeah.
And it's one of those lying fucks from the oil baron. Yeah. Sit down.
And he confronts him in the barbershop, which is a great scene.
Great.
And he folds instantly.
And you see it on his face. He looks so scared.
Because these guys are wannabe like gangsters. Because they're not actually gangsters, man. They're just like there's these guys who are forced into being tough. And they aren't tough, And it's got this great scene of him just like completely realizing, oh, he could call the feds on me. And they're all afraid of that. They're all so afraid of that.
So in that moment, you kind of do see Abel become like this more powerful.
Yeah, because he's always known that it was them, and he also probably figures multiple of them, and it is multiple of them. But you don't really get an answer on who, because he knows that, and he's content with that. He kind of now has put fear into all of them. He's the top dog now. He's getting this land. He's gonna expand. Nobody's gonna fuck with him again.
And he kind of blackmails one of the oil barons to giving him that extra sum of money to pay for his new move on this other port.
And he gets what he wants. He gets the land. He's top dog. He's the best in the biz. He signs. He's there with his wife and Albert Brooks, and he's celebrating. He's looking out in the city. He's seeing this view. This is all his.
Yeah.
And then it's cut short because here comes back Julian.
Yeah, Julian shows up with a gun, the same gun from the truck, highway shooting.
Yeah.
And,
Because he had been told to turn himself in earlier, and the plan was he was going to do that. But he's like Oscar Isaac. He's like, oh my God, I'm a weak man. I can't do this.
Right.
I can't do this. And he runs, and he escapes from the police again.
And that leads to one of my favorite shots, which is Oscar Isaac's facing the camera in the foreground. Background's out of focus, and you just see Julian dart.
Mm-hmm.
And Oscar Isaac doesn't even turn around. He just closes his eyes. He's like, fuck, nothing I can do about that. And the cops just trot through the snow trying to grab him.
Yeah.
And he gets away.
It's also great because the Yellow and him are so calm. There's never a blow up. There's never why are you investigating me? He understands that he's doing his job. And I wonder if that's also something just with they are the only two people who aren't white in this whole movie. So they kind of have an understanding of each other in a weird way because they know that the world's against them. So there is a sense of respect still. And he even says to Oscar Isaac, he's like, you aren't a felon.
Yeah.
Or probably not a felon. He's willing to work with him because he really does not want to put him in jail.
Well, because when he's trying to find him before that, and he goes to his sister's apartment, Julian's apartment.
Yeah.
And the sister lies, and she's like, he's not here. I don't know where he is. And then Oscar Isaac's poking around the apartment.
Yeah.
Julian bursts out of the door.
Yeah.
Jumps out the window, and Oscar Isaac looks at Julian's sister, and he's like, I know why you lied, but I'm your best option.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Oh, geez, he's probably right.
Yeah. And also, he's speaking in Spanish during that scene. That's the only scene he has it the whole time. He's trying to relate to this person because he understands Julian.
And you could see how he could be a good businessman or a salesman because he's working all these people from different angles. We talked about it in class. Every scene's a negotiation or a seduction or whatever it is. Every scene is a negotiation in this movie. And there's a final negotiation at the end.
Yeah. And he's so honest. Julian asks him if he gave him a better shot than, he deserved. He's like, no. Because he didn't think Julian was good enough. It's the same way Julian also was mad at him because he wanted to be a sales guy, but he didn't think he had it in him. And Julian has his gun to his head. And he's pointing at Oscar Isaac. He's pointing at everyone else.
He's got tears in his eyes.
It's erratic. And Oscar Isaac does not give him the sympathy that he wants. He doesn't be like, no, man, your life's worth more. He just stares at him. In the same way that, he was afraid to look at him before. He didn't want to see it. And now he's just staring at him.
He's got to face it. Yeah, that same stare he talked about earlier in the movie, closing the deal. And then poor Julian's take care of my family. And you're like, oh, no.
He almost wants Julian dead because he's that criminal aspect now, Yeah. And he just wants that completely gone from his life. He has no sympathy anymore.
And then I think in the most violent part of the whole film, at the end, he shoots himself. Julian shoots himself.
I don't know if that angle, was right for that gunshot. He kind of puts it right under his chin up, and it goes backwards and hits the tank a little bit. I was
Does it go back and to
the left?
I think it actually does.
To quote the bullet of John F. Kennedy, yeah. To quote the bullet.
To quote the bullet. That magic bullet.
That special bullet. Yeah.
But I think it leads to, the ending of the film, but also I think one of the more poetic looking shots of the bullet going through Julian, killing him, red blood squirting everywhere.
Yeah.
The bullet then goes into a tanker right behind Julian.
Yeah.
And this black oil is bubbling, gurgling out of the tanker. So you have Julian's dead body on this white snow with red blood sprayed everywhere.
Yeah.
And then you have this black sludge spraying out onto the snow.
Yeah.
And Abel just walks over
the body. He ignores them completely. Yeah. He grabs a white handkerchief and just shoves it into the hole to save that oil.
And you do get the sense that Abel is kind of fully formed.
Absolutely.
And he probably is going to run the show.
It was kind of like There Will Be Blood a little bit. And I saw that connection too. I was like, oh shit, Oil Wars, yeah. People do anything for it. It's that black gold.
It's pretty cool as a movie.
He is cool. Abel, you're pretty cool.
Love Abel.
Love Abel.
But, Jessica Chastain also gives a really good performance. They have some really good, domestic scenes together.
How do you feel about this? I wanted a sex scene. Because they're kind of an odd, couple in a movie where they are still in love the whole time and they still have a lot of affection for each other. And you don't see the kids most of the movie. Like he is so clearly in love with her and not in love with the family aspect of it. Like he doesn't really seem to care about his kids, but like he loves her, and she's his rock.
Right.
And they kiss, and it's very passionate. But I thought there should have been one sex scene.
I thought so, because I noticed it not while I was watching, but I was looking at the IMDb page, and it was like sex and nudity, none.
Wow.
And I was like, this is like an R-rated A24.
And they're horny for each other.
Yeah, like
let them bang.
something.
Let them bang.
A most horny year.
Ring that a bell. He's tapping in.
I guess honestly, I take that back. His plate was pretty full. He had a lot of shit to deal with in this
movie. He couldn't
movie.
get it up. He's got to take a Blue Chew.
What is that?
It's like a boner pill that they always. It's a boner pill that they always sell on podcasts.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Blue Chew, sponsor us.
That's your prerogative, man.
You got any production facts for me?
I do. So the score was done by Alex Ebert. I don't know if there's any relation
I'm not familiar with
Roger
him.
Ebert, but I thought it was kind of a standout
Absolutely.
part of the film. It adds to like that slow kind of rhythmic, momentum of the story. Alex kind of cited Scarface as an influence with the kind of synthy, 80, dirty, grungy sound.
I heard some Godfather in it too.
It definitely feels like
First few notes of it,
echoes.
the main score, like there's like a little bit of like a Godfather sound to that.
It is kind of like this micro epic feel, which I kind of like.
Sure.
How it is kind of this low budget thing. But he said it's a synthesis of sort of calling card themes and extended atmospheres. There's horns and flutes and strings, but there's also sort of these meditative synthetic beds underlying, which I thought was a good quote.
Yeah, that's a good quote.
The box office.
I can't imagine it did well, but it probably did better than we would think.
Well,
Because it was 2014, so people were still
no.
going to the movies.
Well, no.
Oh,
actually.
never mind.
The budget was only $20 million, and it made 12.
This is a bomb.
This
is a bomb.
Kind of a bomb, but I mean, you and I were aware of it. It's been on the shelf, warming up. To a nice medium cold. It is. I think we should talk about the A24 element of this, because
this is early on. This is the same year as Ex Machina. So, so Oscar Isaac was in the Ex Machina, A24, A Most Violent Year circle. So he was an indie darling.
Yeah, I mean, this is Ex Machina. This is Slow West. This is the end of the tour. This is Room, The Witch. Like,
this is when they're just starting to hit.
And I think I actually had like a awareness of A24. Probably you did too in this time. Where it was
like The Witch was the first one I really was aware of.
Yeah, because it was like, okay, we have like this cool indie studio doing all these cool movies that we want to go see. I remember It Comes by Night, which came out.
Yes, 2016 maybe?
Somewhere around there. Like, that was when A24 was like full force. I was like, okay, this movie's boring as hell, but it looks good. So I guess
cool.
that's what it is.
Something.
And I
joked earlier, but obviously they do have some stinkers now as they continue to expand. But I think for a while they really were a true mark of quality.
It was cool because we had this, especially at that time, we were all invested on Jurassic World and Force Awakens and all that stuff. But we also were kind of dipping our toe into more serious works when we were 13, 14, whatever.
More violent work, you would say?
Most violent?
The most violent work, yeah.
Most violent. But it is, again, it's interesting to see in this pump and dump era that we're citing how A24 was a part of that.
Absolutely.
For half of that.
Yeah.
Like I said, the most violent year for the city of New York. Jessica Chastain got all this vintage Armani clothes for the film to kind of emphasize that new money look.
Yeah.
Javier Bardem was initially going to play Abel.
See, I did think about that in the sense that I almost felt Abel should have been a little bit older. He reads very young in this. Oscar Isaac was probably only in his early 30s.
I did think that when they were like, when we were doing this, when we were
15
driving
years
the trucks,
ago. I was like, what, when you were like 17? But I also liked Oscar Isaac's performance so much that it's almost more interesting that he is younger.
Right, he's hungry.
Yeah.
And like we've kind of been saying, he's a little bit naive. But ultimately, I think he sticks to his guns. But once Javier Bardem dropped out, Chastain recommended Oscar Isaac because they went to Juilliard together.
Oh, so they've known each other for even longer.
Yeah, they've been doing scenes since they were like 20.
They've been scenes from a marriage even longer than
Scenes from A Most Violent Night.
Scenes from Juilliard.
Juilliard. The Albert Brooks role was originally written for Stanley Tucci,
Oh, interesting.
which I thought
I don't know
would
if I
be
see
fine.
Tucci in that,
No.
but I think Brooks adds a age and a grace to that role.
Oh,
He's not doing
definitely.
his normal shtick. It's good. It's really good.
And lastly, nearly all the graffiti in the film was added digitally and
Wow.
period specific to the point of licensing real pieces from artists of the 70s and 80s to be put into the
That's
scenes.
awesome. That's
I
really,
mean,
really cool.
I mean, obviously New York does not look like that today, covered in
No.
graffiti, looking disgusting. Parts of it, but I mean, there's like a famous quote of the New York mayor being like, "New York can drop dead." Like New York was in a tough spot.
Tough spot, yeah.
It's
Sex
interesting.
booths, fuel wars,
Yeah, I mean, taxi drivers,
beautiful
see
pea
this?
coats.
Terrific pea cuts, and like Oscar Isaac's pea coat is like this nice tan color,
Yeah.
and it's got this yellow color grade, and it's just like it's very evocative of the time.
Yeah, very evocative. So, with that being said, what are your slate recommendations?
Yeah, so I have 3 films for the slate. So these, again, for those who don't know, these are kind of pairings that I would recommend you watch alongside A Most Violent Year that I think maybe enhance it or riff on it or maybe influences for the film. The first one I have is Scarface, which would be positioned, came out in 1983, so 2 years after the film takes place. We mentioned how Oscar Isaac kind of has this Pacino feel in the film, but also I was reminded of Michelle Pfeiffer in Scarface in
with
regards
Chastain.
to Chastain, just
Yeah.
kind of that blonde straight hair with the bangs and kind of the attitude she has. Like she kind of almost reminded me of Margot Robbie in
Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah,
where
same thing.
she's talking to the DA and she's like, "This is very disrespectful."
This has been very disrespectful conversation.
And she like flicks the cigarette at him.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is a pretty cool moment. But Michelle Pfeiffer kind of has that same attitude. And what's interesting about Scarface is Pacino's character has no moral compass in that movie, but he's, striving for this, American dream. And there's a moment in the script where he's like, Anna, who's Jessica Chastain's character, is like, "You and your American dream." Like they even cite it, which is kind of goofy. But in Scarface, he's mowing people down. He's like a truly horrible human being, but entertaining nonetheless.
Sorry, I'm also just watching your laptop, and
Yeah.
there seems to be a video from the 20th anniversary of Scarface or something like that, and it's Al Pacino right in between when he got old and when he was still like Al Pacino.
He looks crazy.
Yes, I saw The Rock was there at the red carpet premiere, it seems like.
Uh-huh.
F. Murray Abraham?
Yeah, he's in it.
Yeah.
Have you seen Scarface?
I've not seen Scarface.
Oh my god, it's
This
like
is a very odd video to watch right now.
yeah. I'll look at it.
We'll link it in the show notes.
Another one I thought of was Billy Friedkin's The French Connection,
Never seen either,
which is 1971.
but love Friedkin.
Which is like a great, really emphasizes grimy New York. I was also reminded of it during that chase scene between the car and the truck.
Yeah.
And French Connection has one of the best, probably the best car chases through New York. Famously,
It's not in France?
not in France. There's like this awesome chase, and famously, they had no permits. They just strapped the cameras in French Connection. They strapped the cameras to the cars and literally cruised around New York extremely irresponsibly, but the shots are incredible.
Yeah, I actually feel lied to now that it's not set in France. I really feel like I
What?
had this expectation in my head that it was going to be a French movie.
So you weren't gonna watch it because French movies are boring?
It's called The New York Connection.
And finally, like I said, I think this movie is riffing the most on Sidney Lumet films. So there's actually a movie from 1981 that I watched, which was really good, called Prince of the City. Kind of follows a similar guy who's morally trying to do the right thing, but he's in the corrupt police department of New York City. So it's in this exact time that the movie takes place, has similar themes, and it's really an entertaining watch. It is almost 3 hours though.
I'll add them to my watch list. I actually have not seen all 3 of the movies that you recommended, so that's good for me.
Yeah, check them out.
I'll learn. So Sam, this shell form more of a movie. Been sitting on it for 11 years. Are you glad that you decided to take it off the shelf? Or would you have rather sat there getting colder and colder and colder and collecting dust?
I'm extremely glad that we took this off the shelf. I'm actually going to take it off the bottom shelf of 2014, 2015 era films, and I'm going to put it towards the top because I think this is a hidden gem. What about you?
I organized my movies in alphabetical order because I said I worked at a library.
So that would fuck everything up.
That would fuck everything up.
However,
I'm glad I picked it up, popped it in the Xbox, watched it because it still plays Blu-ray, and I'm quite happy with it. It's one I vividly remember hearing about when I was like 13 years old. People being like, "You should see this movie." I'm like, "I'm 13, I can't see this movie," and so it's been like in my mind for 12 years as a movie that pretty good nobody saw. And it's been collecting dust for a long time. Been getting very, very cold. But just before the warmth slipped away, I grabbed it off the shelf. And I'm happy I did.
I am too.
Well, this has been our podcast and discussion on A Most Violent Year. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Shelf Warmers. New episodes drop every Wednesday. You can follow us on social media at shelfwarmers.podcast, where you can send us movies to take off the shelf for future episodes.